Okay, so for this project, we're gonna need some yarn. So for this project, the majority is going to be kind of this brown color yarn. You're filling. I'm using pink and then white for the cream. And then I'm also putting a little berry on top, but that's kind of optional. And for that, you'll need red and green. And in addition to that, we're gonna stuff it with some stuffing. And I'm also just using some scrap yarn so I don't waste it. Optionally a yarn needle, and this is just to put on the green stem. You can kind of use your crochet hook. It's just a little bit harder, but no worries if you don't have a yarn needle. And I have a 4mm hook here and a pair of scissors. We're going to start off with the crust, and to do that we're going to make a magic ring with 6 single crochets. So I'm going to do magic ring, chain 1, oops, and then 6 single crochets. Okay, then you can pull this to tighten. And now for row 2, we're going to do 6 increases. So I'm going to go into that first stitch, pull through, chain 1, and I'm going to put 2 single crochets in there, and that'll be an increase. So 1, 2. And you'll do that for every stitch for a total of 12 stitches. Okay, so that's row 2. Row 3 we'll start the row the same way, but this time we're going to do an increase, then a single crochet. And we're going to do a single crochet, then an increase, single crochet, increase. And we'll repeat that all the way around. So, start with a single crochet, and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next. And you're just going to repeat this pattern all the way around, and you should have a total of 18 stitches. Okay, and for row 4, I'm going to end it the same way. Row 4, this time we're going to do 2 single crochets, then an increase. So single crochet, and increase. And by the end of this row, you should have a total of 24 stitches. Okay, so for row 5, we're going to do it a bit differently, but go ahead and end this row. This time we're going to do something called back loop only. And basically what that is going to do is it's going to help create an edge here. So we're just going to be doing 24 single crochets, so just 1 single crochet all the way around, but you're only going to be doing in the back loop. So this is the back loop, and this is the front loop. So you go into the back loop, with a single crochet, and again the back loop. Oops. As you can see, that'll kind of straighten it out a bit. So yeah, I'm just going to finish up this row of back loops only, no increases or anything. That was row 5, and for row 6 we're going to do 5 single crochets, then an increase, for a total of 28 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then an increase. Now we're going to do row 7, which is going to be our last row before this little frilly edge. And for row 7, we're going to do 13 single crochets and an increase. So you'll basically just have 2 increases, like 1 on each side. So let's go ahead and do that. So 13 single crochets. That's 13, and then here is the increase. And you're just going to do that one more time, and then we'll almost be done with the crust. So now we're on the last row, which is going to be this frill. This is going to be the hardest one. If you can get through this, you can get through anything. And I'll try and explain it the best I can. So the first thing that we have to consider is that we're going to, this time, do front loops only. Because we want some loops over here that will help us be able to sew the filling in. So that's one thing to remember to do. And now there is the pattern. So it's going to be a little weird, but it makes it just look really even. So we're gonna roll with it. Okay, so I did a chain 1. I'm going to skip that stitch that I usually go into first, and I'm going to go into this stitch. And I'm going to do 4 half double crochets in the front loop only. I'm going to leave the back loop alone. So 4 half double crochets. There's 4. Now I am going to do a slip stitch in the very next stitch. So this one right there. And that's my first ruffle. And I'm going to start over. I'm going to skip a stitch. So I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to go into the next one. Or sorry, I'm going to skip this one. So it's a little hard to see. So try and make sure you see it. This one is the one with the slip stitch. This one is empty. So I'm going to skip this one. Go into that one. With 4 half double crochets. And the reason I kind of did this way is because we had 30 stitches in the last row, so basically each ruffle has to take up 3 stitches worth of space, which is why we have this weird skipping stitch going on. But it turns out very even, so we're going to roll with it. Now, I'm going to do a slip stitch in the very next stitch. Like that. Then I'm going to skip this stitch, go into this one with 4 half double crochets. And you're just going to repeat this pattern all the way until the end. Okay, so I'm at the last ruffle, and I'm just going to, this is where it should go, but I noticed there's kind of a gap, so I'm just going to put it in here to end it. And then I'm just going to cut the yarn. It doesn't have to be too long because we're not going to sew it in with this end, but that is the end of the crust. For the filling, we're going to start with a magic ring and 5 single crochets. And then pull that to tighten. For row 2, we're going to be doing an increase in every stitch. So I'll go in there, chain 1, and then we'll do our increases for a total of 10 stitches. For row 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet and 1 increase. So chain 1, a single crochet, and then an increase. And you'll go all the way around, and by the end you should have a total of 15 stitches. So now we're at row 4, and this time we're going to do chain 1. Now we'll do 2 single crochets, and then an increase. If you're kind of seeing the pattern here, you can just kind of go on. And we're going to continue until we have 6 rows. But for now, this is row 4. And by the end of this row, you should have a total of 20 stitches. Okay, for row 5, we're doing, the same thing. But this time we're going to do 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3. And then an increase. By the end of this row, you should have 25 stitches. Alright, and this is the last row, row 6. We're going to chain 1, and then do 4 single crochets, and then an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase. And for this last row, keep the tail long, because we're going to use it to sew it onto the crust. Maybe like a foot long or something like that, 1.5 feet. But yeah. Okay, so now we're going to make the cream, which is going to, again, start with a magic ring with 5 single crochets. And then for row 2, we're going to be doing 5 increases for a total of 10 stitches. So increase in every single stitch. Perfect. And for row 3, we're going to do a single crochet in 1 stitch. And then the next stitch we're going to do 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Oh no. And you're just going to repeat this all the way around. So the next stitch you do 1 single crochet. And in the next one you're going to do 3 double crochets. And that'll give it this kind of like petal pattern. So that's gonna be how the cream goes. Alright, so I finished kind of the last petal, and I'm just gonna kind of do a little slip stitch. And when I end it, I'm gonna keep the tail long because I'm gonna use this to sew it onto the filling. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this. For the berry, you're gonna do a magic ring with 4 single crochets. And then you're going to do another row 2 with just 4 single crochets. So I'll show you what that looks like. So here is my first row. And then row 2 again is just going to be 4 single crochets. Flip it inside out and then cinch it over there. Fit a little slip stitch there. And then cut it. And now we're going to take our green yarn and we're just going to kind of sew this like little stem thing on it. Okay, so I have some green yarn. I kept it a little bit long just because we're going to use the green yarn to sew it onto the cream, but the way I do it, there really is no correct way. You just kind of make these little, actually it's best to start from the inside. And then I just do kind of 4 of them, so here would be 1, and then I'm going to go diagonally to make the second one. And then I take my needle out this way to make another one. If that makes sense. But there is no like correct way to do it. And then I'll go this way. And then you can go over it a couple times if you want. I might do that. And then once you're done, you can just tie the 2 ends of the green together. And that'll help make it secure. I'll keep it like that, and then I'll just tie these ends together. And now what you're going to do, you can tuck in all the ends and weave them in and stuff. And then we can talk about sewing. Okay, so the order of sewing, it's going to be berry on the cream first, and then cream on the filling, and then filling on the crust. And as you put the filling on the crust, like halfway through or something, you can go ahead and stuff it. But one thing to keep in mind is that for this, I designed it so that it matches 1 stitch per stitch, or whatever that means. So you can just do a whipping stitch and match those directly. And I would recommend only doing like this front loop, right? So that way everything else is kind of hidden under. So you can go ahead and sew everything together, and I will see you when I'm done.